everybody probably knows somebody by now with the millions of COVID-19 cases in America. Everybody knows somebody. I know a friend of a friend of a friend, or the son of dear friends of mine's nephew. You know what I mean? There's kind of a 6 degrees of separation thing. But as this thing hits close to home, it's a different story. And I don't say it's a different story, but it makes it more vivid and it makes it more relatable. Um, I've been with, I've had a team that is without a doubt the best team in radio. I've got some wonderful people, uh, young, older, but there's one guy who's been sort of the rock of Team Gallagher, and you hear him on the show all the time. Eric Hansen, who's going to join me on Skype from his home where he is in quarantine, is going to kind of weigh in here because, and it's a weird place for Eric to be interviewed because normally he's flying the plane, runs the buttons, and pilots the ship. He's the director of operations for the Mike Gallagher Show. For how long now, Eric? How many years have you been with me?
It's a 21, almost 22 years. Long time.
Wow.
Very long
time. When we first went into syndication, we thought, we knew we had to find somebody. I had no idea who you were. You were working at ABC Radio, right?
Yep, that was at ABC Radio. You guys were, we signed you up. I was the studio manager there, and we signed you guys up to use studios until you could build studios, which I ended up building.
So 22, which you did, I mean, you do everything. I mean, I always joke about Eric being the rock because you're the operations manager. You sort of oversee the entire technical operation. You assist Pavlina with the video stuff, Derek, and all the stuff that has to be done. And you've been with us now almost 22 years. You are going through a potential COVID chapter. And, you and I were talking this morning and you said, hey, this would be kind of a cool idea to talk about this experience. And so many people are encountering this. So let's kind of rewind a little bit. You and Gina, your wonderful wife, had potentially, we thought, been exposed to one of your family members, one of your daughters, who was apparently exposed. Kind of walk us through that exposure thing, because that was last week, right? When you first had concern that maybe one of your daughters was exposed.
Yeah, last week, one of my daughters was with some friends, and it turned out that she was exposed to someone who tested positive.
Right.
And so we were a little bit concerned, and but I thought, well, we'll see what happens here. And she got tested like the next day, and we ended up getting test results, and she was negative, which was great, except that we started to feel sick. On that was over the weekend, and then on Monday. We spoke over the weekend, as for people, to let people know, we spoke over the weekend. I said, let's just play it safe. Let me, I won't come in tomorrow. We'll get, someone to work for me and see what happens. And then on Monday, I started to feel sick. And then Tuesday, it was worse. And this morning, I actually woke up with a fever. Not a bad fever, and I'm not delirious, but, it's about 100. But enough to say, given the current conditions, you gotta.
Yeah. And Gina has a fever too, right, Eric? Your wife has a fever.
Hers is 101. Hers is higher. Yep. Yeah. She's in bed.
She's in bed, and you guys have both had, and your daughter too, the kind of, it seems like textbook symptoms that we keep hearing about with people who have COVID-19, right? Because the first night, you went through chills? And all
night, Monday, Monday night I had chills, and I was cold, and then I was hot. The sort of the classic, night chills when you have a fever. I had a sore throat. I had a cough. I still have the cough. Cough has actually gotten a little bit worse, but I didn't have any kind of a temperature until today. And today I also woke up with the back pain that everyone talks about, and that's
what Heidi Harris. Remember Heidi Harris a couple of weeks ago from Las Vegas? She had that weird back. She said it was like pain between her ribs. I thought she said right in her back.
I felt it. I feel it in between my shoulder blades. Although it could have just been I didn't have a very good night's sleep, and I was sort of rolling around. So It could be
Yeah.
that as well. But of course, once you know that back pain is a symptom, then you're convinced that that's what it is.
And incidentally, it may not be, you may not have COVID-19. I don't know. I mean, you guys may have a cold. You may have something else, which is, I think, a very interesting dynamic to this, because I was reading an article a couple of days ago that a lot of the medical experts are concerned about the sort of the psychological impact of being worried about getting COVID.
Yeah, because you worry because you think you don't know. You know, some people get it and have no symptoms. Some people get it and obviously are in a coma. So there's a wide range of possibilities. And so we're still. I had a test on Sunday. I haven't gotten the results yet, and I'm going to taking another test later today after the show. I have an appointment to get another test. I
Wow.
just want to get at least one test that says either I have it or I don't. Just tell me.
But
Just
isn't
tell
it
me one way or the other.
fascinating that your daughter, who we think might have been exposed to, well, and she was, right? She was with somebody
Absolutely.
apparently who tested positive. So we
Yes.
all went through this very out of an abundance of caution. But isn't it fascinating that her test came back negative?
I know.
So
It's
it's
really interesting that that's the case.
because that may obviously, if the transmission is as we think it may have been, if you have it, if you and Gina have it, it was a false negative.
It could have been a false negative. It could have been, since the incubation period is I think 2 to 15 days or 14 days or whatever it is. It could have just been that she took the test too early. So she got the results 4 or 5 days later, but she took the test, within
Right
48
after she
hours.
might have been exposed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Eric Hansen is with us on Skype. If you want to join us, see what this guy looks like on TV, MikeOnline.com. We're streaming, so go to MikeOnline.com. Feel free to click on the Watch Mike on TV button. And incidentally, feel free to join us, because Eric, you'll hang out, I think, 1-800-655
Of course.
Mike for anybody who's been going through this. Again, we don't know for 100% sure, but it sure sounds to me like you guys have all the symptoms. What about your daughter? Is she still feeling sick?
She was better one day, and now she has an earache. And she doesn't have a fever. She had the fever the first day on like a Sunday. She had a fever. She hasn't had a fever
Right,
since,
right.
but she still has the sore throat. She's losing her voice. She's got a cough, and she has an earache now. So she's going for another full test. She's there now actually, and then I'm going to go after the show to get another test just to
Well,
see, so
and
we can get some clarity here.
get some clarity and get some closure. Now, for the record, you're as fit as anybody I've ever met. You run, you exercise. Gina's healthy. You guys have no risks of. I don't think you've got no comorbidities, right? To quote Deborah
No,
Birx.
we don't take any medication. We both exercise,
Yep.
not quite as much as we'd like to since the pandemic, because all of our gyms are closed. But we're pretty healthy. We walk, we run. I walk, I
So
run, I do other things. Yeah.
So how are you feeling emotionally? I mean, what are you thinking about? Because you're a tough guy, and I listen. If I'm you right now, we'd be lighting the candles. I'd have organ music being pumped into the bedroom. There'd be a vigil. I'd have, But how are you doing psychologically, and how's your wife and daughter doing? I mean, what are you guys thinking emotionally? Because I heard somebody tell me, hey, once you may have it, you don't really have the fear. Like, okay, well, I got it. I'm going to work through it.
Yeah, I'm, it's a little bit stressful just because, and I mean, this is just the nature of who I am, that I stress mostly about the fact that I'm not at work, so that there's always something I never know what's going to go
Please.
on. So
But you are at
I'm
work.
like you, I'm like set up. I am at work. That's true.
You're
I'm
working
set
from
up with my
home and you're doing an amazing
microphone and
job. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and my
Like you
microphone
got
and
everything
my
remote.
iPad. I got all the devices, but so it's frustrating because I feel like every day I get up, it's something different. I thought I was going to get up today and feel fine, and I figured,
Right.
hey, I'm going to call HR and say I can come into work tomorrow. But now it's like, how do I do that? I can't do that. So that's just it. That
No,
is very
no.
frustrating.
But it's
Um,
also, are you thinking a little bit about the antibodies and that's what Heidi was talking about, getting through it and then saying, hey, I'm better off now than I was before I had it, if you have it.
well, that's kind of the upside for me is, now I don't have to wait for the fact if I have it, if I test positive, which I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see.
What is
But
your gut?
if I
Do you
test
think you have it?
I think I have it. Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense that I don't. My daughter was in contact with someone. Actually, it turned out she was in contact with someone who had it, and then she was in contact with someone who was in contact with that person who also tested positive.
Right,
So a
right,
number of people, in sort of her circle have tested positive for it.
right, right.
So my gut is I probably will test positive. And if I do, I mean, in some ways, it's like at least I'll have the antibodies, and get the
Yeah.
vaccine the hard way. It's not the easy
Well,
way; it's the hard way, but at least I have it.
you said this morning we were talking. You said, "Hey, this would be kind of nice to share with people, just to have, listen, we're a family, and you're my family, and I'm proud of the track record that you've had for 22 almost 22 years. So check in with us if you don't mind once in a while as you go through this
Of
journey with
course,
your wife and your family, because I think our listeners are going to want to keep up, and I know they are. And everybody's praying for you and
happy to do
pulling
that.
for you. And I know, and I'm not worried. You're going to do great. And I want you to take good care of yourself. And of course, but I thank you for sharing your story with our audience, because I think I know they appreciate it very much, Eric.
Happy to do it anytime, and of course, you know where to find me.
And I sure do. And already people are asking me, does Eric want to take hydroxychloroquine? So we'll get to that the next time you visit with us. All right.
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
Thank you, Eric. All right, Eric Hansen,
okay.
Director of Operations in the ReliefFactor.com studios.